Hi, everyone, and welcome to our group presentation on policies and illegal practices that are expediting the deforestation of the Amazon. It is presented by Nikki Marinelli, Tim Carr, and myself, Sarah Dobek-Troutman. So our first slide is going to concentrate on some of the environmental injustices that are going on within the Amazon region. As you can see, the back picture is part of the Amazon forest. So that is pictured there. However, it's just a small piece of this giant forest. So the Amazon is actually the largest rainforest in the world, and the Amazon River is the largest river in the world. It holds approximately 10% of all biodiversity. It also absorbs 1/4 of all the carbon dioxide on Earth. As you can see by the graphics around the picture of the Amazon, there are a lot of different entities, governments, and different policies that unfortunately are causing harm to the Amazon. There are also a few things working to protect it, but not quite as many as those that are working to deforest the Amazon at this point. A lot of that started in the 1960s when the government started offering financial incentives to cut down parts of the Amazon for agricultural development. This really began the era of deforestation that's continuing today. The late FIHO 2021 study showed that deforestation is slowing the amount of rainfall in the Amazon region. The more the forest is cut down, the less rainfall is produced. So at this rate, the current rate, by 2050, the agricultural business in the Amazon could be devastated by drought and other climate-related issues. This could equal a loss of about $1 billion US every year based on this rate. The irony is the more that we cut down the forest for profit, the less profit in the region for the future. Other additional factors of deforestation that you can see by the graphics down in the bottom right are logging and gold mining. A lot of this is done through illegal practices. One of the primary is land grabbing. So this is where different organizations, businesses, private individuals take advantage of a lack of law enforcement and use violence and other intimidation factors to acquire the land. This is especially prevalent in indigenous territories. The Silva Junio 2023 study showed that there has been a 13% increase in illegal gold mining from 2016 to 2021 in those indigenous territories within the Amazon region. This has caused land loss, pollution of their water sources, and a loss of biodiversity. Even worse atrocities have resulted from this, including violence, forced labor, and trafficking, especially of those indigenous peoples and vulnerable peoples of the Amazon. Loose and unregulated government policies are allowing this to continue. Certain governments are actively working to dismantle protective laws and regulations that are currently protecting the Amazon. As an example, Brazil and Peru both have within their constitutions certain sections that talk about the rights of indigenous peoples, including their land rights. However, a direct quote from the current president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, is where there is indigenous lands, there is wealth underneath of it. So the 2023 Silva Junio study showed that indigenous territories are effective models for preserving the Amazon forest. And you can see there in the middle of the picture, we have a woman with a shield with money, and she's protecting the Amazon from all of those individuals, governments, and entities that are looking to profit off of them. So we know that the indigenous territories, again, are effective models. Those indigenous territories host more than 1 million square kilometers of rainforest, and that all helps to regulate the world's climate, store carbon, and is home to biodiversity and socio-cultural diversity of indigenous peoples. Tim's going to talk to us more about those indigenous peoples of the Amazon.
Thank you, Sarah. The indigenous people of the Amazon have always had a special connection to the land that they live with. Currently, there's approximately 400 unique groups of indigenous individuals living in the Amazon basin. Historically speaking, there could have been as close to 8 to 10 million people living in that region, some 10 to 30,000 years ago. But the whatever group, the group has mastered the ability to live in harmony with that land. According to Amazon Aid, one of the largest groups working with the indigenous people, that the Amazon forest was in 1500s was devastated by the Europeans that came to the Amazon in search of gold and natural resources. The Europeans wiped out approximately 95% of the indigenous population by spreading famine, warfare, and disease in their quest for their health within the region. Unfortunately, that was the start of environmental injustices to be suffered by the indigenous people. Environmental racism, as well as discrimination in the environmental support and policymaking, leads to unjust treatment of these marginalized communities. This means that by pollution, natural disaster, and contaminated water, contaminant sources, community, racial minorities bearing the brunt of the environmental impacts caused by these severe climate changes. The 2021 study by Averis, Delvera, Bettino, and Nobre found that an increase in heat stress index due to deforestation in the Amazon would be the highest in northern Brazil, where some of the most vulnerable populations of the Amazon live. The study looked at how this deforestation was the highest in 2020 since 2012. The study looked at current and past rainfall amounts in correlation to the square mileage of the deforestation area in the Amazon. The study predicted that 60% reduction in rainfall and a 2 degrees Celsius increase over the Amazon and the deforestation rates. The indigenous people and the most vulnerable people live in the northern part of the Amazon were impacted the most by this heat exposure, because these are the individuals that their living conditions they're living off the land. They have less modern conveniences, and they're the ones that rely on water for both their planting and their hunting. So this excessive heat would have the most impact on them. The indigenous community, along with others, depends on the Amazon biodiversity for their health. The well-being of these communities is complexly connected to the reliance on the natural medicinal resources from biodiversity, with the Amazon serving as a vital source of substance used in pharmaceutical production in South America. In developing countries, nearly 80% of the population depends on natural medicinal resources for primary health care, with the women often taking on the responsibility of the farming and providing crucial services like transportation and water treatment. The impact of the climate change on the indigenous community is of their primary concern. With the changing climate worsens existing challenges and significantly affects natural, environmental, and indigenous community have called home for generations. And one of the critical issues of this disruption of the vital relationship that indigenous communities have had with their lands, territories, and natural resources. To hear where the people from that community have said, we have 3 quotes we have on the slide. The first one is from Genesil Jahar, indigenous photographer, who states that I'm scared. The people defending the environment have received many threats, not just from the government, but from other people as well. Farmers, loggers, and miners. Fanny Carew, coordinating body of an indigenous organization of the Amazon basin, stated, Indigenous territories are the best preserved in the Amazon because we make respectful use of our territory and natural resources. And Unicar Domingo Piez Namachai, president of the board of directors of the Amazon Sacred Headwaters Alliance, stated, while big companies talk about value, for us, the whole ecosystem, which is a living thing, is priceless. Now Nikki's going to talk about what we can do to help.
Thank you, Tim. So, like Sarah and Tim have been talking about, really sharing and providing this education is the best thing we can do to prevent the deforestation of the Amazon. Oftentimes, people are more inclined to help and support these causes when they understand how it's going to affect them. So, according to the US National Cancer Institute, 70% of the plants used in treatment of cancer only grow in the rainforest. The Amazon produces 20% of the oxygen we breathe, and approximately 1/5 of the world's fresh water is found in the Amazon basin. So that alone really shows why we should help, why we should take on this cause. So in 2020, Enrique Ortiz, the senior program director of the Andes Amazon Fund, was quoted saying that the rate that we're losing culture, meaning the languages, is higher than the rate we're losing species, and that the connection between culture and forest is direct. And as Tim said, this talks to the people living in the Amazon. And to have the most effective policy advocacy, we need those firsthand accounts from those marginalized groups to make the impact, to really be the driving force of those policies. Another thing that we can do is support the nonprofits and the organizations that are already established and working in the region. They are the ones that the people trust. They have the understanding, they have the rapport. One of those organizations was started in 1996, and that is the Amazon Watch. And they offer education, they offer ways to donate to help protect the deforestation of the Amazon. Another thing that we can do is also be aware of our buying of the products. So bananas, beans, coffee, maize, rice, and soybeans are the biggest crops produced in the Amazon. And making sure that when we buy those products, that we are looking for the Rainforest Alliance seals. So as you see in the middle of the screen, it can look different. So as long as it says Rainforest Alliance and it has a frog on it, that means they have gone through the different policies and procedures to make sure that they are obtaining those crops in an environmentally friendly way. So that is kind of the minimal of what we can do to help support the rainforest, is just making sure we're not adding to it. You can go to the next slide, Sarah. So we thank you for watching our presentation. We hope we have motivated some change. And on this slide is the resources that you have heard us present on throughout our presentation. Thank you.